Hello there, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today, where I'm going to start off today's episode with a little report out of Dubai. Estelle Mossely versus Janina Del Carmen Lascano, and the result. Estelle Mossely retained her IBO lightweight title with a split decision victory over Janina Del Carmen Lascano after an absorbing contest in Dubai that took place on 18th of March last week at the Dubai Duty Tennis Free Stadium. Mossely and Lascano were making history by clashing in the first ever female world title fight to be held in the Middle East, and the fight lived up to expectations. At the end of the 10 close and highly competitive rounds, the judges were split, but two of the officials gave the nod to Frances Mossely with scores of 96-94, 97-93, while the other gave it to Lascano with a score of 96-94. The 29-year-old and Olympic gold medalist from 2016 admits she'll need at least two more fights before she's ready for a unification contest with either Katie Taylor or Amanda Serrano, who meet next month in New York. Apparently it was a great fight. I did miss it, but apparently it was a great fight in Dubai. On to more news from women's boxing. Hannah Rankin is going to go toe-to-toe against Alexandra. Scotland's first ever women's world champ, Rankin, is one of the world's premier female fighters. A two-time and now double world title holder, the 31-year-old is in career best form after beating Swedish veteran Maria Lindberg in November last year to claim the vacant super welterweight belts. For her part, Ayala has visited the UK previously, suffering defeat to middleweight star Savannah Marshall in 2018. More tellingly, though, the 33-year-old has also been the distance twice, sharing 18 rounds with current IBF World Super Welterweight Champ Marie-Eve Decaire out of Canada. Now 11-5 and two knockouts of this, two knockouts. Hannah cannot afford any slip-ups against Ayala, with some huge unification bouts on the horizon. As well as IBF ruler Decaire, the division is now red hot with fellow Brit Natasha Jonas claiming the WBO portion of the world title with a two-round knockout of Uruguay's Chris Namas last month. The new card will also feature an all-Scottish undercard featuring some of Scotland's best boxing talent, including IBO International Cruiserweight Champ David Jameson and Commonwealth Featherweight ruler Nathaniel Collins. Fight Academy's Dennis Hobson said, "Due to ticket demand, we've had to change the venue and date of this show, and I'm looking forward to revealing all at a press conference." Good stuff. He also went on to say, "Women's boxing is in a great place at the moment. The worldwide profile is incredible, and Hannah is one of the biggest names in the sport. She's already made history by being the first female fighter from Scotland to win a world title, and her story is inspirational, and we all agree." And she was a great interview subject, interviewed by Mike Orr last month on Talkin Fight. Elsewhere, we see that 6'7" cruiserweight prospect Tommy Fletcher has signed with Frank Warren, his outfit Queensbury. The big punching 20-year-old who calls himself the Norfolk Nightmare now trains with Mark Tibbs in Raynham, Essex, having bludgeoned his way through the amateur ranks. He views Queensbury as the only place to be for a young top prospect in order to progress in the sport. He said, "I think Frank is best in the business for young fighters. He's definitely great at bringing young prospects along, and you can see what he's done with Dennis McCann, that'd be Dennis the Menace McCann, David Adea, and people like that, for instance, where they've gone pro from scratch with Frank, and now look at them." True enough. Let's flip back to Dubai and fill you in on some of these other results that came in from the weekend. We saw that Havana's Backoff forced the referee to step in and spare Christian Correa further punishment after pummeling his Argentinian rival in Dubai. The dark horse of the super lightweight division mauled Correa for 7 rounds before the official waved it off near the end of the next session, deciding the 39-year-old had taken too many shots. Backoff, who had sustained a relentless pace through an incredibly high volume of punches, now moves to 3-0 as a professional, and with Pro Bellum's backing, the Armenian plans to be in world title contention in double quick time fashion. Elsewhere, Britain's Khalid Ayub extended his perfect start to life in the pros with an impressive win over Anam Shavredi out of India. The UK's Ayub was trying to force the stoppage in dominant display, but had to contend with points win which moves him now to 3-0. In the opening bout of the evening, Fahed Al-Bushi out of the UAE moved to 8-1 as professional with points win over Mohamed Kinshedi out of Tanzania. Al-Bushi was given the nod by all three of the ringside judges of scores 59, 58, 58, 56 twice. Elsewhere, let's see. Peter Mcgrail defeated Alexandra Ainiki, also at the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Stadium. Peter Mcgrail bamboozled and beat up Alexandra Ainiki to reinforce his reputation of one of boxing's hottest prospects. Mcgrail forced his Romanian rival to quit at the end of the second round of Probellum Evolution in Dubai, having overwhelmed him with a level of punch variety he had not encountered before. Liverpool's Mcgrail was an outstanding amateur and won medals at European Championships, Commonwealth Games, and World Amateur Championships, but he had made a flawless start to life as a professional, and with this win, takes him to 3-0. Good stuff for Peter Mcgrail. Ireland's former super bantamweight world champion J Donaghy produced a punch-perfect performance to stop his Mexican rival Cesar Juarez in less than 2 rounds. Donaghy, 35 years old, was sharp and accurate from the first bell and floored Juarez with a wonderfully timed left hook from the southpaw stance. Elsewhere, Probellum star Shabazz Massoud, who stopped Joan Boez in the opening night of Probellum Evolution, said he would relish a crack at Donaghy, by the way. I'd love to fight him. He's a former world champion, and I would fancy my chances, said the 10-0 man from Stoke-on-Trent. Good stuff. Elsewhere, we see that Sonny Edwards retained his IBF World Flyweight title and then immediately turned his attention to unifying the division. In Dubai, Edwards defeated Pakistan's Mohammad Wasim after 12 rounds with scores of 115-111, 116-110, and 115-110 from the ringside judges. Wasim, who was bidding to become his country's first ever professional world champion, tried to make the fight a war of attrition, but he was deducted points in rounds 6 and 7, which harmed his title tilt. Edwards described his opponent as world-class, but felt he was a clear winner at Probellum Evolution, and after the victory, repeated his desire to face Mexican Julio Cesar Martinez, the WBC champion, next in the biggest fight that can be made in the 115-pound division. Also, the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Stadium on March 19th, Regis Prograis will fight for the WBC world title after Tyrone McKenna was stopped because of a nasty cut above his eye. It was a blood-soaked final eliminator for the super lightweight belt, and it was delivering on all the pre-fight hype that McKenna, who had been floored in the second round, was pulled out in the 6th. Prograis was winning the fight, but McKenna, true to form, was showing plenty of heart and guts, which rallied his fighting fans at ringside. But the doctor decided that his cut was too severe and handed victory and a shot at WBC's crown, currently held by Josh Taylor, to American Prograis. It'd be interesting to see if Mr. Prograis goes on to fight Jack Catterall before Josh Taylor. Elsewhere, moving on to London, England, where at the OVO Arena at Wembley, we saw European welterweight champion David Avanesian make an emphatic statement in his stunning 5th defense of his EBU belt at the OVO Arena, where he beat previously unbeaten opponent Oskari Metz. As Vinian got to work and the Finn had never recovered from a brutal knockdown and was finally saved from himself by the referee with just 2 minutes on the clock. The champion is now 24-4-1, will now await a ruling from the WBC where he's ranked number 2 over his passage to a shot at champion Errol Spence Jr. That's a heavily contested division, so we'll see if that'll happen. In the co-main event, Hamza Shariaz, who is making statements and putting down a marker in a new division as he secured a WBC International Silver Tate with a second-round knockout of Jez Smith. Smith promised to bring the heat, but was brutally picked off by the unbeaten Shiraz, now 15-0 with 11 knockouts. A sweet left hook planted Smith on the canvas in round 1 as Shiraz asserted authority in the first fight at a middleweight. He was down again at the beginning of the second and failed to beat the count, just as his trainer, Josh Burnham, rightly threw in the towel. Elsewhere, Royston Barney Smith delivered a sparkling performance on debut against Adam Martinez, who was rocked on a number of occasions across the first 2 rounds by the accuracy of Barney Smith's punches. The 18-year-old former 2-time European champion as an amateur showed more than enough to suggest he'll be the one to watch as he progresses through the ranks. He punches clean and hard, doesn't waste shots, and employs plenty of variety in his work. Martinez was a stubborn and ideal opponent who seemed to view getting through the 4 rounds as a personal triumph. Referee Lee Avery scored the fight 40-36, and Royston Barney Smith is up and running. Elsewhere, Sam Noakes defended his WBC International Silver Lightweight title with his 9th straight stoppage to edge closer to the goal of a perfect 10. Now, we have featured Sam Noakes before on Talking Fight, and we support his rise to the top as well. After 3 one-sided rounds on the Italian, Vincenzo Pinello was flunked to the canvas in the 4th by a peach of an uppercut that Pinello failed to recover from. Mark Lyson waved it off after 1 minute 54 seconds of the round. The elsewhere mentioned Dennis McCann collected the first belt of his professional career by winning the WBO World Youth Bantamweight title after defeating Charles Tondo over in 8 tough rounds. The iBox gym-trained youngster started on fire with all his usual spite and swagger and looked like he could be in for an early night, but Tondo responded and started to match fire with fire. Tondo came back into it across rounds 4 and 5, tagging McCann several times and punishing any indecision on the part of the 21-year-old. The Tanzanian was growing in confidence after weathering the early storm, and the pair engaged in a fiery shootout at the end of the 6th when McCann attempted to regain the momentum. McCann reestablished some sort of control in the 7th as Tondo was put under huge assault and looked for the first time he could be on the brink and showed signs of distress. The Maidstone Menace started to enjoy himself in the final round and was duly declared victor by a 79-73 scoreline on all 3 cards. Quick note here, Mark Chamberlain notched up the biggest win of his career to reach 10-0, forcing the retirement in the corner of Jeff Ofori after 5 rounds, largely dominated by the Waterlooville lightweight. Chamberlain made all the running and forced Ofori onto the back foot, whether he wanted to be or not. The 22-year-old is now firmly in place for significant title action, and a win such as this suggests he's the real deal and one to watch at that weight. Good stuff. Elsewhere, let's have a quick look here. Los Angeles. That's right, a fight that I was watching. Alexis Roca beat Blair the Flair Cobbs at the Galen Center in LA. Also at this same night, March 19th, the other fight action was taking place in Dubai. Los Angeles boxing fans were treated to a night of action at UFC's Galen Center as 2 top welterweight contenders, Alexis Lex Roca, or Rocha, who's 19-1, 13 knockouts, went toe-to-toe against Philadelphia's Blair the Flair Cobbs, who's now 15-1-1 with 10 knockouts of his own. They delivered a lively boxing event, which was shown live on DAZN, I might add. Cobbs brought the Flair, walking out with a Lucha Libre-inspired outfit and a luchador, playing homage to his childhood growing up in Jalisco, Mexico. The fighters were very active in the first round as each took turns trying to establish dominance. An effective right jab from Cobbs opened up a cut on top of Rocha's right eye in the 3rd round, but that did not stop Rocha from pursuing Cobbs and landing some power punches that shook Cobbs. They certainly did, and took the fight out of him. In the 5th round, Rocha caught Cobbs with a combination that visibly hurt him as he retreated to avoid a continued attack. By the 6th round, Cobbs had recovered as he tried to force the distance himself and used a jab to set up his shots, but Rocha was relentless and continued to attack, dropping Cobbs to the canvas in the 8th round and overwhelming him at the 44-second count of the 9th, winning the fight by knockout in a 10-round welterweight main event. And it was a really good fight, and there's going to be good things coming from Mr. Rocha's camp in the near future, without a doubt. On that same card, in the co-main event of the night, Michael the Problem McKinson, who's now 22-0 with 2 knockouts, fighting out of Portsmouth, Great Britain, and Alex Chai-Heat Martin, who's 17-4 with 6 knockouts, fighting out of Chicago, participated in a 10-round welterweight fight as well. Martin used his reach to his advantage by using his jab to set up effective counter punches. McKinson was not afraid to take on the role of chaser, coming forward, landing some effective right hooks while using his jab as a guide to his attack. The fight went the distance with the judges ruling the battle in favor of McKinson via unanimous decision with scorecards looking at 97-93, 99-91, and 98-92. It was basically a clash of styles, said McKinson. Two tricky southpaws, which he expected. I didn't feel like I was losing too many rounds. I fought someone so negative I didn't feel like I looked my best, which wasn't as exciting to the crowd. I had to stick to the game plan and be patient. I kept my distance. I had to make them count. I think he's average, said Alex Martin. If we're to fight again in a rematch, I'll stop him. I'm not being arrogant. My timing just wasn't there. I couldn't click. He had reasonable distance, which surprised me because I usually kept my distance. I was fighting myself. Elsewhere in the second fight of the DAZN live stream, Bektimar Bully Melikuziev, who's 9-1, 7 knockouts out of Indio, California, faced seasoned veteran David La Pantera Zagara, who's 34-8 with 21 knockouts out of Lima, Peru, in a scheduled 10-round light heavyweight fight, but established early dominance and proved why he's a power puncher by finishing the fight in the second round at the 30-second mark, adding another KO to his victory. Everything feels good, he said, and this went like I expected to go, said Melikuziev. Sorry about that. Melikuziev. Yeah, Melikuziev. The only thing on my mind is a rematch with Gabe Rosado, he said. Over to New England Sports Center in New Hampshire, city of Derry. Headlining for only a second time in his young professional boxing career, undefeated lightweight prospect Saint Nick Molina took full advantage of his opportunity to fight on top of last night's Slugfest card presented by Granite Chin as New England Sports Center in Derry, New Hampshire. The 22-year-old Molina, who's now 8-0 with 2 knockouts, fighting out of the same hometown, Lowell, Massachusetts, immortalized by Irish Mickey Ward, patiently outboxed the outlaw Ryan Venable, who's now 2-11, on his way to a 6-round split decision. The game Venable, who was penalized 1 point for using his shoulder in the opening round, used roughhouse tactics throughout. He started showboating in the final round, trash talking and throwing exaggerated punches from strange angles. But Molina kept his composure to earn the 8th victory without loss. The 1 point deduction was critical because if not for the point deduction, the fight would have ended in a draw. In the co-featured event, Bay State fighters Julian Black Dragon Baptiste, who's now 3-2 with 2 knockouts out of Woburn, Massachusetts, and Whitnam, Massachusetts middleweight Brian Udre, who's 2-1, no knockouts, stole the show. They buzzed each other in back-to-back second-round engagements, Baptiste blasted Urde with powerful right in the third, but the Brazil Urde bounced right back his own attack. Urde picked up the pace in the fourth, effectively punching his spots, but Baptiste responded in the fifth, snapping Urde's head back twice in an action-packed round. The two fighters went toe-to-toe in the sixth and the final round of the unofficial fight of the night. After the lone fight that went the distance, Urde emerged as a 6th-round split decision winner. It was competitive as the judges' scorecards indicated. We had an action-packed 7-fight card tonight, Grand Chin President Chris Tiati said. Former New England heavyweight champ Justin Crazy Train Wolf, 7-3-1 with 5 knockouts, fighting out of Fairfield, Maine, overpowered Mexican opponent Fabian Lobo Valdez, who's 3-7, for a second-round win by TKO. Wolf patiently cut off the ring and caught Valdez with a few body shots to slow down his opponent. And Wolf decked Valdez twice in round 2, and the fight was halted by the referee. We see that Tommy Frank is going to go toe-to-toe against Craig Derbyshire at the Magna Center. Tommy Frank will make his first defense of his British flyweight title on Sunday, April 3rd, in an all-Yorkshire clash against Craig Derbyshire, and that'll be shown live on Fight Zone. Rotherham's Magna Center will be the venue as Sheffield's Frank aims to repel the challenge of Doncaster's Derbyshire, a man he beat in 2018 for the Central Area Super Flyweight belt. Since that clash, the fortunes of two fighters has varied. Super Tommy is now 15-2 with 3 knockouts, with those brace of defeats coming to Mexico's Rosendo Guanares. The 28-year-old has gone on to claim the Commonwealth Superfly crown, international belt, and Lonsdale belt with a dominant points win over Birmingham's Matt Windle last year. Craig's 8-28-3 ledger belies his ability, always on the road and in the away corner. The 30-year-old is currently in the form of his life, winning 3 of his last 4, including picking up English Super Flyweight title last September with a huge upset win over top amateur and previously unbeaten Joe Maposa. Cool. The undercard is stacked. with Leeds light heavyweight Reese Cartwright, Sheffield knockout artist Keenan Wainwright, unbeaten 10-0 Leeds fighter Billy Pickles, Levi Giles 11-0 from Grimsby, and Wolverhampton's up-and-coming Katie Healy, all set to appear. Keep your eye on Katie Healy, though. She's up there in the Avril Matthew set of cards. All right. We'll also see up-and-coming France's Ismail Francois Malad, Sheffield's Zane Clark, Barnsley's Matt Happenstall, and Grimthorpe's Danny Hall, for all you UK fans out there wanting to know who's up-and-coming. Dennis Hobson says he has warned Tommy Frank will not sleep on his challenger. Fair enough. Then, finally, for our last piece this episode, Pride Park Stadium, the home of the Derby County Football Club, will stage the WBO Interim Super Middleweight World Title clash between Zach Parker and the unbeaten two-weight world champion Demetrius Andrade on Saturday, May 21st. That'll be shown live on BT Sport. In what will be a huge occasion for the knockout artist Parker, who's 22-0 with 16 knockouts, and the city of Derby, the lifelong fan of the Rams, will get to live out his dream of fighting on the pitch of his local football club. With the club's financial struggles this season being well known, but not to us here at Talkin Fight, Queensbury Promotions knew there was a responsibility to help. So they've set 10 quid from each ticket sold, and that's going directly back to the club to support the future of DCFC. Since teaming up with Frank Warren and Queensbury, the 27-year-old has clocked up 3 spectacular and emphatic wins to reinforce his position as the #1 contender in the WBO rankings. Parker wowed BT Sport viewers with a brutal knockout over Vaughn Alexander, Shahzad Korjanov, and Marcus Morrison. None of the 3 men had previously been stopped. This is a dream come true, said Parker. As a fighter, you have various hopes where you start out in the sport. I think every one of us dreams of headlining a show at the football team you support. I don't think it's fully sunk in yet, to be honest. It will be incredible to walk out and see the stadium packed with fans. I can't wait. Demetrius is a great champion, and props to him for coming over here. But I know I have the beating of him. I'm too big for him. We'll see him on the 21st, but someone's has got to go. Andre, who's 34 years of age, widely known as Boo Boo, began his world championship reign at super welterweight with a victory over Vanes Mathiasian in 2013. The WBO title was defended on 4 occasions, including a stoppage victory over Britain's Brian Rose in 2014. His middleweight crusade began in 2018 when he won the vacant WBO title by virtue of points verdict over Walter Kwautundawaka. His title at 160 pounds has been defended 5 times, and the super slick southpaw remains champion at the weight. Notable wins at middleweight have come over Liam Williams and Irishman Luke Keeler and Jason Quigley. There can be no questioning the pedigree of Demetrius Andrade, said promoter Frank Warren. It's why we went above and beyond to win the purse bid to give our man every crucial advantage. It's going to be such a special night on the 21st. I feel sure the Derby public will come out in force to roar Zach on in the biggest fight of his career. When we teamed up with Zach, he revealed his dream of fighting at Pride Park, where he is a dedicated supporter of his home team, and we're set about to making his dream become a reality. Adding to that, the 10 pounds going to the club is something I hope inspires the fans to come and support Zach and DCFC in even larger numbers than we predict. We've done this before in recent years with Josh Warrington in Leeds and Carl Frampton in Belfast, and both were successful on magical nights. I see no reason at all why Zach cannot experience similar joy. All right, well, we look forward to seeing that fight and the result. Again, Pride Park, May 21st. Going to be a big fight. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight. Appreciate it. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'll see you later on at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when I join Mike Orr at 4 for Knuckle Up.